Another coach's catch up via Zoom, and this is the way most coaches prefer catching up with me, better than having to have me down at training or post-match. And I reckon one bloke could be really rapt to be talking to me this way. It's Trevor Robertson from St Mary's. Hello, Robbo.
G'day, Kingy. Thanks for having me, mate.
Great to be talking to you, and just give us a bit of an idea of, I suppose, there's some anticipation starting to grow about football being played now that we've got some training confirmed, and that as of next Monday you can actually get some boys together, although in small groups.
Yeah, I think there's probably a varying degree of motivation across the playing list from what I've seen. There's the guys that just can't wait to get back into it, but then there's a group of guys that are probably wondering what's all this for, because there's nothing in concrete in terms of games in a season. So I think, that's where they stand today. It'll be interesting to see once we get into it next week, and we will start next week in some shape or form, how that changes motivations. I think, the boys are probably just across all of Geelong and all of footy Australia are probably just craving that interaction with their mates and getting into that sporting club environment. It's very important for people to be involved.
Yeah. Where do you stand on it, Robbo, knowing that you're organising training potentially for something that may not go ahead in the end?
Oh, look, I'm supportive of that. I've even just in our career, sort of work wise, I know and understand that things change on a daily, weekly, and sometimes hourly basis, and that planning is difficult. But I think right now, even with no plan, just some continuity in life in general for the guys that love playing the game of footy is important. Obviously, everyone wants a season. It's going to be compromised in some way. But look, I think at the end of the day, if it didn't even eventuate that there was a 4-week round robin, and who knows what it looks like, the boys would appreciate just getting some game time.
Yep. If there wasn't a structured competition, Robbo, would your club reach out to other clubs and say, hey, look, let's just have some hit-outs for the fun of it and get guys on the field, and, you ring Paul Carson and go, hey, Carson, come on, let's keep it St Mary's rivalry going and let's have a kick. And you ring Rowan and say, come on, mate, let's get the Colac boys together and we'll have a hit-out and just, do something that's, might not be worth 4 points in a premiership cup at the end, but it's a chance for the boys just to have a bit of a blowout.
Yeah, for me, and I'm speaking on behalf of the group, but I think so. Yeah, look, anything in terms of opportunity to get those competitive juices going and have some sort of footy would be great, and that could be, that could be in any shape or form. That could be across the three leagues in Geelong. You never know. So, it might end up being an under 23. I think where the world is today, everyone's got to take an agile approach to it and learn as you go, and be open to any thought process around what it might look like. At the minute, we've got an opportunity to train, and we'll endorse that. And then in 2 weeks' time, driven by government and state and federal and local laws, we'll adapt.
Yep. How will you go about training? Some areas usually has a big list. You could have anywhere up to 55, 60 players wanting to have a kick on a Saturday afternoon in your 2 o'clock and 12 o'clock sides. How do you get those groups of players in groups of 10 through training? Does it add a little bit more workload for you and Keisty?
Yeah, it will a little. The next few weeks, it might actually mean that we're at the club for less time than we normally would be. So, but our approach at the minute is because the VFL's so uncertain at the minute, and we've got 12 listed VFL players. We then also learned overnight that our Falcons have been told there's nothing until the 27th of September, and who knows beyond that. So we've got up to, I think it's 11 or 12 on the list of the Falcons as well. And there's some fairly top end talent in that. So the senior training list does get quite large. It's up around 60. So our approach at this point in time is we've asked the boys what time suits them, which was 5, 6 or 7 p.m. We'll assign a coach to 6 groups of 10, and we'll scatter it across those 5, 6 and 7 o'clock time slots, 2 groups on the oval at any one time.
Yep. So what nights will you train, Robbo? Will it be Tuesday,
we're going to do Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday mornings, mate, at the minute.
Yep. Yeah, okay. So you've got players at Geelong, Werribee, Williamstown, if I'm not mistaken.
We've got Geelong, Werribee, Williamstown, and Collingwood, actually.
And Scott Selwood, of course.
Yeah, so we've got a bit. So there's some pretty good talent to come back into the group, which if the VFL season doesn't happen, that's okay. We've got some selection headaches and maybe some, depending on what happens with the point system, some probably headaches around that too. But good problem to have.
What would your best side? And I know you've done this. If everybody was available, no VFL, no Falcons, and you put the side down, how many points would you run out with your best 22?
To be above the 40.
Oh, well above, I would have thought.
Yeah, so I can't remember. It was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Sean Blood, Glenn Keast, and Scott Hosking and I are in a WhatsApp group, and the three of those boys were off pinging their best sides around and sending them over text, and it was quite comical to watch. But look, it'll be a good side, but yeah, obviously wouldn't work.
You get to be reigning premier for a little bit longer potentially if the season doesn't go ahead, but I suspect that's probably the last thing on your mind.
Yeah, look, because I've had a few people joke that you could be the reigning premier for a bit longer. But look, we were wrapped with how the season finished, and all our boys were really fit and ready to go for what was 2020. So we're like most clubs. We don't want footy not to be around. We've got a youthful, talented list that we'd love to harness and get out in the footy ground, but unfortunately we can't.
It's hard to stay up for a long time, Robbo. I know North Shore did it through the late 90s and you were part of that era, and South Barwon did it for so long, but probably now it's harder again to stay up. And 4 consecutive grand finals appearances, so the players are playing upwards of 20 games, up to 22 games a year, then turning around very quickly and starting pre-season. Does this potentially lengthen St Mary's window, or further opens the window for St Mary's to be dominant for a long time, that this little break will help refresh some of those guys, like a Jacob Welsh, a Riley Hall, a Jesse Travellini, who have all been really key parts of that long run of grand final appearances, the McMahons, etc.?
No, mate, I don't think so. We look at where we're at the minute, and we know that our average age is super young. So they're just keen to play footy. Keisty and I have obviously, Keisty more so in his longevity at North Shore, we're able to demonstrate sustained success. It's a mindset and a culture that we're trying to evolve within the club. And yeah, absolutely, making 4 grand finals is a huge effort. Would we love a few more premiership cups in the cabinet? Yes, but I think we've already demonstrated that as a footy club and a playing list that we can achieve great results over a sustained period of time. Now, as I said, win a few more would be better, but making 4 grand finals in a row is no one's done that.
No, it's a pretty impressive effort from your boys. Any players that have benefited from the break? Anybody that might not have got to the finish line round one, and it's worked out well for them that they've had the extra, at this stage, 6 or 7 weeks?
Yeah, probably the only one that comes to mind is Tom Lang. He actually rolled an ankle in one of the match sim sessions we had with the Collingwood Footy Club. So his rehab was probably hampered a little, but apart from that, we were pretty fit, ready to go.
Yep. So Langy would be right if obviously things start. If he had to flick the switch tomorrow, he'd be right to go.
Yeah, don't know.
Oh.
It's dragged on a little bit longer, but I think it'd be close.
Yep, fair enough. Yourself, you look like you're in fairly good nick. You look like you're back to fighting weight.
I've probably dropped a couple of kegs over COVID time, but that's probably more so from just getting a few more hours of training in. Actually, maybe some of the other footy clubs and coaches would testament to this, but we've been using Strava, the app, which records obviously all your activity. So when it's public knowledge within your group, you probably challenge yourself a little bit more. So I've had a couple of longer runs, but probably drank a few more beers at home too be honest, Kingy. So when there's not much else to do, so Saturday afternoons, I'm probably like most guys that are involved in footy clubs, is watch the races and have a few beers.
Mm. Yes, you're not alone in that regard.
Yeah.
I probably haven't worked out how to spell Strava and put that on my phone. So, what did they say? You'll either come out of COVID as a chunk, a hunk, or a drunk.
Yeah, well, which one are you?
Definitely not a hunk. Now I've got to face only a mother good love, Robbo. You know that. Next year, have you and Keisty spoken about 2021? I know you're only contracted for this year. Has any further discussion been held with the powers that be at Anthony Costa Oval?
Yeah, it's a fairly simple process for us. Scott usually rings up and says, "What are you thinking?" And he's probably already spoken to Glenn already, and Glenn said yes. So yeah, look, we're going again. It's going to be a fairly compromised season in whatever shape it takes. So feels like you'd be walking away from something that you hadn't really finished.
Yeah, absolutely. No, good stuff. And I think was the Herald Sun Group did the VFL top 50, I think from 2000 onwards, last 20 years. And one T Robertson rated a mention for your days at Werribee.
Yeah, snuck in there, mate, which I was pretty happy with. I think someone grabbed me quite early at work on Monday and showed it to me because I'm probably like most others. They click on those links and get the screen of death that you can't read it. But yeah, I was pretty happy with where I sat.
Yeah, you should be duly recognised. You had a wonderful career in the yellow and black at Chirnside Park. Talking about teams or recognition, we're going to give up that you are in the BFL Team of the Decade as named by K-Rock Football on a halfback flank. We will reveal more on Saturday, though, the whole team. Sneak peek Friday night at 7:30 of I think 5 of the players will be in it. You'll be the 6th one we reveal. We've already revealed it now. And then come Saturday morning, the full 24. We've given ourselves some license to name a 6-man bench, as you probably would for Interleague. So we've done that. Who out of your era of that triple premiership winning Geelong Amateur lineup do you expect to see lining up? And I'll tell you what, you could probably put a Geelong Amateur side on the park and go, that was pretty good for the decade.
Yeah, look, I guess for the guys I played with, I'd be expecting to see Tim Clark in there, Baden Dodd. Now, we did say Lindsay Smith, but I probably got my eras and games played mixed up. Mitch Day would probably be in there, given his form at full forward. Yep. And I don't know, maybe Brad King.
Brad King would be one that would be very, very close, I would suspect. So all will be revealed on Saturday morning. It's been a lot of fun putting those teams together. I know the St Mary's boys weren't overly enamoured with me a couple of weeks ago when I plumped for Jeremy Larkham at fullback over Riley Hall.
Yeah, your teams create a little bit of commentary, and I suppose that's the job of you in the media. Put yourself out there, and I'm sure some of our boys were keen to see Riley in there, but it's a personal decision, Kingy, that we won't hold you accountable for.
No, I'm still welcome down at Anthony Costa Oval.
No, you're more than welcome. I've seen you scull a mean beer, mate, once before, so you're well and truly welcome.
It was pretty good beer too. Hey, Rob, I really appreciate you having a chat with us and talking footy. Can't wait to see the boys back training next week. You can finally kick into gear, and hopefully we know a little bit more about the season in the coming weeks and whether we've got one. And fingers crossed we are playing at some stage in the not too distant future.
No worries, Kingy. And Kingy, mate, can I just do one shout out before we go?
Of course you can.
Just a shout out to Riley Hall. Actually, don't be too despondent about not getting selected, mate, but I can't wait to see you back at training.
Robbo, you're a genius. Good to talk and look forward to catching up with you soon.
No worries, Kingy. Thanks, mate. See ya.